And we also distribute or supply promotional items, sweatshirts, t-shirts, backpacks, tote bags, umbrellas, anything that bears your name for image recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. And the man with the tie in the new office, John Rafferty.
Good morning, everyone. John Rafferty from WatchGuard 24/7. I'm the owner of a full-service security guard company. So we provide security guards, concierge, and fire safety directors to the residential, commercial markets throughout New York and New Jersey.
Thank you. And the man leading the good life in the Bahamas, Neil.
Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful sunny day here today. I'm with Webline Media Group. We are a company that's been designing websites and offering online marketing services since 1995. Together with my partner, Steve, I've worked on over 1,000 projects, small to very, very large. And if you need some help with your website or marketing online, give me a call.
Thank you. And the sweetest guest of all, Rachel.
Thank you, Alex. I was about to say good afternoon. It's still the morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rachel Kellner, and I'm one of the co-owners of Eisner Chocolates. We are one of the oldest chocolate shops in New York City, and we make and retail handcrafted, delicious chocolates. And we help our clients make an impression and build relationships with their customers by offering year-round corporate gifting.
Thank you. Sean.
I'm Sean. I work with Wendy, Jyoti, and Alex at Queens Centers for Progress in the Development Department, and we do fundraising for the organization.
Thank you. Ben Horowitz.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Benjamin Horowitz. I'm the CEO of ESB Consultants. We specialize in group health insurance. So if you're a company that's got 2 employees or a couple thousand, we can help you.
Thank you. Mr. Diaz.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Robert Diaz, financial advisor with Edward Jones, located in Plainview over here in the island, specializing in comprehensive human-centered wealth management.
Thank you. And everybody's favorite return guest, Sonia.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be back.
Good to be back.
So I'm Sonia Sala, and my company is called Uplifting Nonprofits. I work with nonprofit executives and their leadership to show them and be their guide to fundraising with ease, so they can do it with ease and forward their mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Jyoti. There? Okay, Tony Foy.
Good morning. I am the education and outreach coordinator for LaGuardia Performing Arts Center, located in Long Island City. It's housed in LaGuardia Community College, and we're looking forward to the theaters being up and ready sometime. Right now we have something called Open Cultures that's going to happen. So we'll have some live performances outside. So I hope that you can attend, or if you know someone who wants to perform, send them to us.
Thank you very much. Mara, welcome back.
Good morning. Mara Ohanyan, Cruise Planners, travel franchise affiliated with American Express Travel. I do all kinds of travel, although my niche is river cruises, but I can do land, ocean cruises, river cruises, individual groups.
Thank you. Joseni.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joseni Tineo. I am the president at Jose Michel Events. We are an event planning company. We help our clients release stress by planning their wedding or social events. We bring their vision to life so they can that they just enjoy and have a good day.
You're kind of an event therapist. Nancy.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, everyone. Nancy Vargas here, CEO of DH2 Chauffeur Transportation. What we do is provide safe and private ground transportation services. So you would book your travel with Mara, and we would take you to the airport. If you have any events or anything coming up where we need to mobilize you and your guests, this is what we love to do, as well as come to your home and do our mobile detailing service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chaim, welcome back.
Nice to be back. Life and business coach.
Okay. And Cheryl Miller.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Miller. I'm a broker division specialist with Legal Shield Business Solutions. And what we do is we work with small businesses, their employees, entrepreneurs, families, individuals, and helping them to get affordable access to legal services and identity theft solutions. We recently launched our cyber attack protection plan for small businesses. I'm looking to work with small businesses, 100 employees and under. And we've been around for 50 years. We're nationwide, and we're looking to work with everybody on this panel.
Thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Mr. Farrell.
Thanks, Alex. Good morning, everybody. Tom Farrell, principal of TMF Law Offices. My practice is targeted to the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. I will give them the practices and programs and information they need to avoid being sued and to avoid being investigated or audited by a government agency.
Thank you. Maureen Lynch.
Hi, my name is Maureen Lynch. I'm the owner of Lynch Movers. We do local, interstate, and also international moving. We are not brokers. We do have our own staff. We have our own trucks and our own warehouse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Mr. Feinberg, is it David or David?
I grew up as David. I go by David Feinberg now. Either
Oh,
way,
okay.
David or David, both good.
Okay. So just a little introduction of who you are.
Okay, thank you. And sorry I can't stand the whole time. I have a meeting later. I grew up in New Jersey. I lived in New York a bunch of years. I live now in Israel, and I was invited by Joseni. I have a business for over 20 years in publishing, but I'm getting a networking for a different role that I've created for myself as a connector, connecting people with unique products and services.
Thank you. Welcome. And Tress Walker.
Good morning. I'm Tress, one of the moms at Mom's Kitchens NYC. We are a catering house and a bakery. We specialize in fresh baked breads, brownies, cookies. We look forward to serving your needs. And we have a delicious, delightful purple box that is filled with all of our tasty goodies for yourself, for Mother's Day, or for your coworkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tress. Okay, so today we have a long-awaited presentation by Mr. Pelicano, Triangular Consulting Principal, and he's going to be talking about the restaurant revitalization program, which will have a lot of relevance for the business owners in New York. So Roy, take it away. You can share the screen as you wish.
Great. Well, thank you. I will just share this right now. Okay. Cool. We should be good at this point.
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Roy Pelicano. Many of you guys know me from either this group or other groups that we've been on together. As Triangular Consulting, I am a business consultant working with small businesses, trying to make sure that they can grow and ultimately achieve an exit plan that rewards the owner for all the effort that they've put into their business. I started TBT Business Financing actually over the summer after the first PPP program went around, because I spent so much time helping business owners getting loans that I said, maybe this is actually, there's a larger business in need that's here. And it's pilled through the rest of the EIDL, the PPP, and now the RRF. Lots of acronyms here, right? So the EIDL, of course, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The PPP was the Paycheck Protection Program, and the RRF is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And The reason why the RRF came around was because in the latest round of support by Congress, they realized that the food and beverage industry, because it's really larger than just restaurants, the food and beverage industry had a particularly tough time. And the payroll protection program was designed really to support payroll and to keep people employed. But restaurants in particular, they might not have been able to be open. So they suffered extra losses than most businesses that were beyond just payroll. And so in recognition of that, they've put together this RRF fund. And what this does is this supports more than just payroll. It supports all the potential losses that are eligible, right? And we'll go through that a little later, that are eligible for the for restaurants. First of all, the SBA, if anybody has an SBA loan that they currently have out, the SBA has a debt relief program. And this debt relief program is for anybody who may have a 7A, a 504, or even a micro loan with the SBA. Because of COVID, they've put together special debt relief to support the deferment of payments. And even the SBA can support some of the payments that people do have. So originally it was 6 months of payments plus fees. That's shrunk down now to about 3 months. And I think they're still paying fees. And that's going to continue until they run out of money. So if you do have an SBA loan and you haven't seen this debt relief, you should contact your lender or contact somebody, me, anybody, and see how you might be able to get support on that. The EIDL was a loan, right? So it was very generous terms, probably the best terms you're going to ever get as a business owner from any lender. So if you have the option to take it and you need the funds, then take it, because you won't find a better loan out there. The PPP, again, was the Paycheck Protection Program. This was structured as a loan, but if you spent it appropriately and then you applied for forgiveness, then you're able to convert it into a grant once it's forgiven. If you don't spend it properly, or if you don't apply for forgiveness, it stays as a loan and you have to pay it back. Again, it's even better than the EIDL rates were, and so it was a very preferential loan. So, I mean, of course, you would prefer not to pay it back, but if you did have to pay it back, it's not a crime. The Shuttered Venues Grant is a grant that is truly a grant. It was not a loan converted into a grant. There's very structured process for it. You have to apply through the federal government's granting application and portal, and it's a pretty tight and difficult to manage process with many steps. So it's definitely something that if you are a shuttered venue, you may want to look at. But if you do serve food and drink, and it comprises 33% of your business, you might be better off with the RRF. It's something that you need to consult with your trusted advisors to be able to really identify which one of these works for you. You can't apply for both. And then you have the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which is structured again like the PPP, where it's originally a loan, and then if you spend the money appropriately, then it's convertible to a grant that you do not have to pay back. Any questions on that? I will, and if you have questions, just raise your hand, just interrupt me, but are there any questions on that? Okay. And just so that you know, the reason why I ask questions is not because I don't want questions at the end. It's more that I want you guys to have to think. I might start calling people out if no one's asking questions. Okay. So as we just identified, there are multiple COVID programs that exist through the SBA, and there is eligibility across multiple programs, but they don't want you double dipping across many of the programs. So the first one is really that I want to cut to first is really the EIDL program. So really the only restriction here is that you can't apply for more than one EIDL program. But if you did get the EIDL, you can apply for the PPP. You just have to use the funds for different types of costs. And I won't go into depth into this. If you have questions about this, you can reach out to me later. But the key for this regarding to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is that you can't do the shuttered venue grant and the RRF. But if you got the EIDL and the PPP, you can still go for the RRF. So it's not really that complex. You just need to know the different players. And all this information is available on the SBA website. SBA.gov is your primary resource. If you read anything in the newsprint, if you hear anything on a webinar, make sure you confirm it on the SBA website. There's a tremendous amount of information up there. That's probably the reason why most people don't go there. But they do have this 800 number or 844 number, toll-free number that is accessible to restaurants so that they can ask their questions there. They can also come to anybody who is studied in this and working on that, like me. What's discussed on the website is who can apply, the supplemental documents that are necessary, how to apply, when to apply, how you're going to calculate your funding capabilities, and what's allowable and not allowable. So those are all the resources that you can get on there. So who can apply? First of all, you have to have been a food and beverage facility or organization. We'll go into that in detail in a little bit. You need to have experienced pandemic related loss. They're not going to audit you for this, but you have to self-certify. So what I tell all my clients is you don't lie with the feds, okay? You could lie to your wife, you could lie to your kids, you could lie to anybody else, but you don't lie to the government. They have a lot more resources than you do, and they will rake you over the coals if they want to. And if you do run into that problem, you call Tom Farrell down there in the corner, right? Because he's the one who will help you get out of that problem. You just have to self-certify that, just like you had to do with the EIDL and the PPP, that you had these COVID-related losses. You are not permanently closed. So let's parse that out. Permanent closure versus temporary closure. So if a restaurant shuttered itself, but it's continuing to be in operation, and then it comes out of operation, it is temporarily closed and not permanently closed, and therefore it is can't think of the right word, applicable, wrong word, but the primary purpose is to serve food or beverage. Similar business models with 33% of public facing food and beverage gross receipts. Okay, I had to put it that way because otherwise it wouldn't fit. Okay, so let's take a bakery, a brew pub, an inn. If they serve food and beverage, and the food and beverage receipts are at least 33% of their gross revenue, then they qualify. So if you have a bakery and the bakery has a sit-down area and people eat and drink in the bakery, and that comprises at least 33% of their gross revenue, then they qualify, okay? Same thing with like an inn that has their own restaurant. There's a special carve out for restaurants that exist inside of hotels or inns, but are technically a separate legal entity. So if they have a separate EIN number, or if they're a sole proprietorship that's operating inside a hotel that's not a sole proprietor or not owned by the same sole proprietor, then they can apply, even if it's not 33% of the hotel. Again, these are the complexities that we can get into.
Roy, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The first point, you have experienced pandemic-related revenue loss. Given the fact that in New York City, for example, the restaurants could only operate at whatever it was, 25% or something like that, does that automatically mean that they qualify?
Yes. Yes.
Because that's a deliberate cap on how much work they can, how much business they can have.
Correct. Correct. Okay. But to give you an example, there might have been a business who did not experience any loss because they pivoted very well and
Right.
they were very successful in that pivot, and they showed no gross revenue loss, right? And even though they had to pivot, and even though they may have had some expenses, they would not qualify. I actually do have a client like that who could not apply for the PPP because of that exact issue. Their revenues actually grew, but their profit margin shrunk, and so they ran into that kind of a problem. So basically, any business entity type is eligible. And again, it's open. If you're still open, if you were temporarily closed, and you could still be temporarily closed, and even if you hadn't even opened yet, but still had expenses in the coverage period, up until March 11th of this year, then you qualify. So if you were planning on opening a restaurant, so if anybody knows someone who was looking to open up a restaurant, they got the rent and they had to pay the rent because the landlord wouldn't let them out of it. They were paying marketing expenses, they were paying employees, all those expenses, even though they never actually opened. And by definition, open means that they had sales. If they never actually opened, they still qualify. So it's pretty expansive in what they're allowing. Bankruptcy. Many businesses, unfortunately, will go into bankruptcy. They can apply and qualify if they either have not yet filed for bankruptcy, if they're operating under an approved, confirmed plan of reorganization. So when you file certain types of bankruptcy, you're basically asking the court to allow you to reorganize so you can stay in business, so you can try and pay off your creditors and potentially survive. Those individuals who have an approved reorg plan that have filed Chapter 11, 12, or 13, they can apply for this. They qualify. If you have permanently closed, if you filed Chapter 7, or if you filed any one of the three chapters 11, 12, or 13, but don't yet have a formal reorg plan, or then you're not operating under approved plan, then you are not eligible. So documentation. The documentation is first of all, the application. It's not that bad of an application. It looks worse than it really is. You have your verification of your tax information, which is IRS form 4506. And then you have to provide some documentation of your gross receipts. So many restaurants have point of sale systems. And so the SBA has actually worked with the with these point of sale systems to try and make this easier for restaurants. So you can apply either through, for example, the SBA website, or you can apply directly through a point of sale system provider who is partnered with the SBA and will allow you to send your application through the point of sale system. So those point of sale systems will provide you the documentation that you need. You can also use your tax returns, which are of course the gold standard, or any other formal government filing that you have. You can also put in your Schedule C, right? That's the tax returns. If you have a 1120S or an 1120 for a corporation return. But you can also use a profit and loss if you don't have it, right? If you don't have any of the others, you can use your P&L statement, preferably one that's been provided to you by an accountant. And of course, for those organizations like brew pubs and inns that want to demonstrate that they have 33% of their revenue from food and beverage, they should also provide that documentation. There are two periods of applying for this. The first period is a 21-day period where there are specific priority groups. So those priority groups are a small business concern that is owned at least 50% by women, veterans, or socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. So the next question is, what is a socially or an economically disadvantaged individual? And let's just say that it's about this long in small print as to how that's defined. But basically, if you belong to any group that has ever experienced any kind of social disadvantage, or does not have access to capital or markets that non-disadvantaged companies would have access to, then you are in that group. There is a definition in that. You can see it. I'm not going to read it to you because you can read it yourself. If there's anything that is unclear about it, feel free to call me or the SBA. Again, self-certification. Don't lie, but you can certify. Oh, I like that. I like that, Tom. Don't lie, just certify. Something like that. After the first 3-week period of the priority groups, then from day 22 on, all other businesses can apply, whether non-disadvantaged, a non-priority group, no matter the size, and then the field becomes open to everybody. This program was $28 billion in size. So in the sense of how much money there is, it will go, and it probably will go pretty fast. There is the possibility, like the PPP and the EIDL, that Congress will refund it. And that's something that's something that will be determined as the funds are identified. Out of that $28 billion, it's actually 28.6, I believe. 5 billion of it was set aside for businesses. I have to look this up. I apologize. 5 billion of it was set aside for businesses less than $500,000. An additional 4 billion was set aside for applicants between 501,000 and 1.5 million. And then an additional 500 million was set aside for the smallest businesses with gross receipts of not more than $50,000. So they have made a focus on the smallest businesses. So for those people who say the government never learns, they've put some of the lessons that they've learned over the past year. I'm not going to go into all the allowable use of funds, but let's just say it's pretty expansive. I mean, you can use this for your debt, paying down principal and interest. You can use it for your mortgage. So if you have loans or credit cards that have incurred expenses during the coverage period, then you can use these monies in order to do that. Calculation. How is the calculation being done? So really, the minimum award is $1,000. The maximum is 5 million per location. But if a business owns multiple locations, the maximum award is $10 million for the applicant and all the affiliated businesses. Whether there's a single EIN or multiple EINs, it makes a big difference. So those are things you need to address. In operation is a technical term that they use. And in operation does not mean the day that you filed with the state department. It means when you actually opened your doors and started generating sales. And it's only for eligible expenses prior to March 11th of 21. Okay. And even if you had no sales, but you had expenses, you're eligible. What's not included in the gross receipts? So people are going to say, hey, I got PPP. Is that included in my gross receipts? No, it's not. The EIDL. Anything that you received is not included, that as a grant is not included in your gross receipts, which can be a good thing for most businesses. The calculations, how are the calculations created? So this is where the meat meets the potatoes, right? So basically you take your 2019 gross receipts, so how much you made in 2019, and if you opened in 2019 and you didn't have a full 12 months of operations, you can prorate that so you can increase the total amount of gross receipts that you had. Then you subtract 2020 receipts plus your PPP if you received any, and you come out with your reward. So basically what they want to do is, because the PPP was supposed to help you with your gross receipts, right? So they want to pull that out because they already gave you money and they don't want to give you more for expenses that you already incurred. So basically it's 2019 minus 2020 plus the PPP, and you come up with your award. Okay. And again, if it's less than $1,000, it's not going to be done. So I'm almost done here. Last slide. corrections following submission and pre-award funding will require you to resubmit, which can cost you 14 days. And then if you've made a mistake and you got funding and then you realize you made the mistake and you want more money, you're not going to get it. There's no way to reapply. So you got to get it right the first time or it's going to cost you. The quick takeaways are, even if you're not opened, you might qualify. The calculations are not complex, but there are some nuances you need to address. It's not focused primarily on payroll like the PPP, that's good. And your mistakes can hurt you. So Roy Pelicano, TBT Business Funding and Triangular Consulting, thank you very much for this time. And please get this out to your restaurant friends because they can really use this.
One more bullet point, don't lie to the feds, right? That
And
was-
don't lie, certify.
Tell the truth.
Certify, but don't lie.
Okay, thank you, Roy.
Thank
So,
you, guys.
let's see here. How do I unspotlight him? There we go. There we go. Okay, thank you. So, Roy, maybe I missed this. Is there a timetable for this program? Is there a cutoff date, or what is that?
So they haven't yet announced the actual start date of when they're going to collect applications. They
Oh,
basically just published the rules on Saturday.
Oh,
So, just keep your ears. Again, if you send me emails or a text message, I'll put you on my list and I'll let you know when I get that actual. But I mean, all the information you need is out there. You should start filing the applications now, putting everything together now so that when they give you the date, you can go right in there and just get it done.
So if the qualifier, the basic qualifier is that 33% of your business has to come from serving food on the premises, is that,
At least 33%.
33%. So if it's
But to give you an idea.
I'll use Rachel, sorry, Rachel, I'm picking on you. But if Rachel has a place for people to, I mean, she sells products that people take away. But if there's a space in that, in those premises for people to sit and have coffee or something like that, a business like that could potentially qualify.
Correct. So Rachel has an espresso machine. She also has a little countertop where people can sit and enjoy their chocolate and espresso right there.
Right.
So if that comprised 33% of her gross revenues in 2019, she would be able to apply.
Okay, thank you. Tom Farrell, would you mind chiming in on some of what Roy has to say? Can you add to that? Can you add to anything he said?
Not in detail because Roy is really the expert on this stuff, but I will say his point about not lying to the feds and about the resources they have. And the one thing Roy didn't say about that is when you lie to one federal agency, they tell the other guys. So it won't be just the SBA knocking on your door. It'll be the IRS and God knows who else. So yeah, that's a bad mistake.
Okay. Does anybody have questions or want to make comments? Okay. Martin, was that you raising your hand, or was I mistaken?
It was me raising my hand. Somebody just walked in the door and started talking to me, and I was like, so that was why.
Okay.
Actually, Alex, I do have a question for Roy.
Yes, go ahead. And then Steve Carp.
In the situations you were talking about where somebody like Rachel or a bakery owner has a sit-down spot, how do you prove what percentage of your revenues goes to the people who are just coming in and having their coffee and donuts and stuff in your restaurant as opposed to the rest of the business?
So this is where a good friend of mine, Tom Farrell, would say, I may be important, but it's more important that you talk to your accountant. The accountant, or your bookkeeper has done your bookkeeping correct, then you will have a line in your revenue section of your P&L that will identify that food is coming from on-premise sales. I also think, and I'm not an expert in this, but there may also be through sales tax filings. There may be some other filings that require you to do that. I know only because I read that there's a special form for this. There seems to be a form if you're selling alcohol on premises and you're selling alcohol for off premises, like a brew pub, that there's a special filing that may have to be made with the state or with somebody, and that filing can be used to also support it. But basically, it's going to be your P&L. That's really what's going to support it. If you have a point of sale system, that point of sale system will have those line items in there, and you'll be able to bring them back through your P&L that way. So it's really going to be through the accounting records.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Steve, go ahead.
So this talk was restaurant related.
Right.
Is the SBA website have something similar for non-restaurant businesses?
Unfortunately not. So industries like Mars industry, the travel industry, which was completely devastated, they haven't looked at that industry at all. So it's really been, the focus has been restaurants.
Thank you.
Okay, Mara, you look like you were going to say something.
And that's why I'm silent, because I know. I got the small EIDL and that was it.
I will say that if there is something, Roy will know about it before we do, and he'll be back to talk about it because he's.
Roy, can I also ask too that I was reading through as well, and it also had some cutouts for venues as well, as to what, how you could look at what you're doing and maybe apply for that portion of it if you have a venue status in some way of either having art up or other things that people can come in and see. And the other thing I thought was interesting was that you could restaurants could get either more of a qualification or additional assistance if they prepared hot meals for needy or areas of people, such as delivering to a homeless shelter or something.
I haven't heard that. I mean, that would be awesome if they have. I haven't seen that, but I would assume that would be part of potentially serving an economically disadvantaged group.
Yes.
And that may be there. Do note that government agencies are not qualified for this, and I'm pretty sure it said nonprofits were not qualified for this either. So nonprofit restaurants would not be qualifying for this, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm just about 75% sure on that.
And go ahead.
No, please.
And so what I was going to say was that despite the fact that this was focused on the restaurant industry, you mentioned the travel industry. I can point to Tony's field with the performing arts, which has suffered, pretty substantially. Do you expect that there will be additional programs that target those particular groups besides the restaurant industry that have been, hammered by this?
Well, that was what I was talking about, right, with the venues. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So my read of the situation is the reason why the restaurant industry was supported was because it was tied to urban areas. I heard something just the other day on the radio that immigrant males were more highly employed than native-born American males. And that was before the pandemic. After the pandemic, there was a major flip of that because the majority of immigrant males are employed in industries that require this personal connection. And the largest of that industries is the restaurant industry.
Right.
So my feeling is, and this is just me personally, I haven't heard anything about this, but my supposition, my hypothesis would be that this is to try and deal with that crisis, that economic crisis that probably is not very well documented in the common press. And I have confirmed with my notes here that all nonprofit organizations are excluded, so they are not eligible for the RRF.
Oh, okay. Got it. Tom, go ahead.
Martin, maybe the program you're alluding to is the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. That's a whole separate grant program.
Yes.
Okay. And that has its own set of requirements and definitions. It has to involve a place that has fixed seating, for example. But yeah, there's a whole special grant program for theater owners, movie theater operators, arts venues, concerts, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if Roy has information about that. If he doesn't, I can get it for you.
I do have information on it. I haven't made myself an expert on it because it's a pretty involved and intense process. So you need a DUNS number, for example. So if you don't have a DUNS number, which is Dun and Bradstreet, and you should, everybody, it's free. You should apply for it so that you can establish credit for your business. It's something that no one really knows about, but you need a DUNS number before you can apply. You need to sign up and create an account on the federal government's granting website, SAM. So it's a pretty, which is the same process you need to go through if you're going to become a government contractor. So it's a pretty complicated process. Again, just about the Shuttered Venues grant is that grant and the RRF do not, you cannot apply for both. And the moment you apply for one, you have to rescind your application for the other. So it's a strategic decision as to which one an organization might go after. By the way, I didn't mention this. If you have a PPP grant in place or a PPP application in place and you're putting in your RRF, you need to rescind your PPP application. If you've already received it, then that's fine. Something else you should know, or they should know, you need those SBA numbers. Many lenders, PPP lenders, did not give the SBA loan numbers to their lendees. And then you have to go back to your lender and get that SBA number. You're going to need those for your PPP loans for your application.
Okay, just had a request, Roy, for you to put your contact. I know it was in your slide deck, but if you could put your contact information too, that's something that somebody just asked for.
It's in there.
Further questions? Martin, go ahead.
Well, I just want to let everybody know too, one of the requirements I've been running into with clients who have been receiving PPP is to make sure that their personal property values equal on their insurance, equal the loan that they're getting. For whatever reason, the government has decided that personal property limits will protect them for a loan, which we're not quite sure why. And I've gone to lots of friends all over the country and asked them if they've come up with any reasoning. And I've got friends in, California and everywhere else who do the brokerage. There is no specific reason that anyone's been able to obtain for any of their customers as to why. But that is something that businesses should take a look at and make sure that if they get $100,000 PPP loan, then they need to have their personal property limits at that level too.
Right, and that's tied to insurance. So because what we did was, if your loan was before, this is for the EIDL. So if your EIDL loan was less than $25,000, there was no personal guarantee. If your loan was above $25,000, then you had to provide a personal guarantee. And what they did to get the money out as quickly as possible is they said, we're going to come back to you later. So many people are getting these emails from the SBA saying, hey, you got your EIDL program. Sorry, you got your EIDL loan. We need to make sure that all your assets are covered, and that you have a board. The board has come together to sign documents. And again, Tom can speak to this. Many of us operate our businesses really sloppily because we don't know any better. But when you take a loan out, you're supposed to have your board of directors, which might be just you, get together and sign a document saying that you are approving the organization to take out this commitment, this loan document. And so the SBA is coming back to everybody and saying, we don't have these documents because they didn't ask for them, but we want you to give us these documents now. And a portion of that is tied to insurance, to make sure that your insurance covers your personal assets, because that's what you're using to guarantee. It's not just the personal assets, it's the business assets as well. So you have to make sure that your assets that are securing the loan are properly insured.
Right. Whether those assets actually exist or not, which has been
correct,
kind of
correct, because the way they determine, Normally when the SBA does this, right, they normally ask you for 3 years back of all your documentation for every single business you own. If you own 5 businesses and you're going for an SBA loan for one of those businesses, you have to provide 15 years of tax return, 15 different tax returns, 3 years for each business, right? And you have to do that for every single owner who's greater than 20%. So it could be a tremendous packet. They did not do any of that because the goal was to get the money out as fast as possible to people. So they're now going back after the fact and doing minimal due diligence and minimal protection to secure these loans. They said they were going to do it. They just didn't do it at the time. But it was part of the condition and it was in the law. So
I get the feeling that the real growth industry in this country is the SBA and government agencies. They're doing very well.
Many economists are very concerned about that. So yes,
they're doing very well. Yeah. Okay. So further questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Roy. I see Roy has put his contact information in there. Before we go, I wanted to just, suggest again that you folks reach out to one another and
how about sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just saying rather than waiting till we're off, like if everyone wants to take a minute to reach out to somebody they haven't met with.
Absolutely.
And schedule something. I think there's people on this group I still haven't met with, if you could imagine that. So, and I would love to. So I'm going to post my new Calendly link. Thank you, Nancy and Sonia for getting me on board with the whole calendar. I can't even say it. But, definitely take an opportunity to meet with everyone in the group and send a message now. Don't wait. Because if you're like me, when as soon as I hit end, I'm like, something else comes up. So.
And there's also an event that QCP is hosting on May 13th? What's the poker night?
Yes. Well, actually, yeah, we have our 4K in Forest Park on Saturday. If anyone wants to join us for some fresh air, we have Roy got his shirt and his medal already. Look how nice that is. So thank you, Roy, for signing up. So we'll be at Forest Park this Saturday for our 4K. We'll send out some information. And on May 13th, we have our poker tournament, which should be a lot of fun. Another live and interactive event with QCP. So we hope to see everyone there. And we have golf coming up too in June 3rd. We have no shortage of things happening with QCP. So we'll get all that information out to everybody.
Okay. Anybody have any further comments before we close? Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. Oh, somebody?
Wait,
I just wanted to thank Wendy so much for trying to contact Monsignor Giantello. Am I saying this right? Monsignor Jamie. Yeah, I hope he gets back to me because it's gonna be a win-win-win if he does.
Okay, I did reach out.
Hard to explain now, but would be great if he did.
Yeah, it takes him a few days to get back to me under normal circumstances. So
I really appreciate it.
No problem. I'm just happy, after, the year that we've had and learning from everybody how to network and how to and meeting so many people in the last year. If there's anything I can ever do or introduce anyone to, I'm happy to do it. But please, I'm not going to end the meeting yet. Take a minute to reach out to others and set something up so we can all help each other. Josie, your hand's up.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. Just want to welcome David. David is like an amazing connector. He knows a lot of people. And the most amazing thing is that he's from Israel. He's in Israel right now. And before, when we started this meeting, he sent me a message and I was like, wait, I'm in a networking meeting now. I think this group is great for you. And I sent the link and he just showed up. David, these are great people that I recommend. And he already said there's a lot of familiar faces here, but I do recommend that you visit us again. There's I think, it's worth it to just go over everybody and have a connection. And I also want to invite everybody, if you know anybody that just got engaged and they're planning their weddings or any social events now that the summer is coming, and many people are planning to have outdoor events, I will invite you to our Win Bridal Expo. It's next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. We would like your support, just sharing the news, and I will add the link into the chat. So if you know anybody that is planning an event or just got engaged, please send this link to them.
I have to throw something funny also in about David. So last week we met, well, we were both on the WOW event last Wednesday, and I got a message from David saying, hey, you know, let's meet. But I'm in Israel, I'm hours ahead, so early in the morning works for me. And I mentioned, you know, that's great, and well familiar of the time zone difference because more than half my family lives there. And I get an email back and asking me if I'm related to Josh Paff, who's my nephew. So it's a small world. We have to figure out that connection too.
He's a fellow juggler.
Oh, you juggled too? Oh, is that
Yeah,
funny?
sure. We do.
That's great. So you guys must be good friends. We'll have to have a conversation for sure. Next week we'll set something up. So I'm looking for my Calendly link to post, but you know, Israel's like New York City. There's 8 million, 9 million people. I might be way off on the numbers. So, you know, to find somebody randomly who knows your family is pretty amazing.
Those are the wonders, Wendy, of networking, which is really amazing. It's like the world becomes really small. You know, the more networking you do, the more people you meet. It's just really amazing. And I want to piggyback on what, you know, Josie was saying. You know, I really think it's important, you know, for us to ensure that in order for us to strengthen our relationship is not just really, you know, being committed to our weekly meeting. It's really taking those relationships outside of this platform. And I think I've had the pleasure of having one-to-ones with most of you. And in fact, David and I already have a meeting, I think, scheduled. You know, he reached out, and Connolly is gonna make it happen, Wendy. So I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think that we should all just you know, really appreciate each other's time. We're really committed to, you know, showing up every Wednesday at 9:30. Wouldn't it be great to really have a deeper conversation? And you just don't know, you know, what similarities you have, you know, the synergies that you may have. I had a wonderful one-to-one, and I've had one before with Neil. And we caught up yesterday, and that was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. You know, and I just think that if we all just take the time, and I know that we all live busy lives, but if we just take the time to meet the people that we see every single week, you know, you're really going to find a deeper connection and really strengthen those relationships. So that's my tip of the day.
Thanks, Nancy.
My pleasure.
Wendy, are you going to keep the meeting open, or are you going to close it?
No, okay, if you guys want to connect, I'll leave it open.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording.
Okay, that would be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.